Death came in rucksacks worn by these men, striking churches and hotels within minutes of each other, some pictured on their mobile phones, possible evidence of a wider network, coordinating the attacks, turning the innocence of Easter Sunday into scenes of terror. 2 days later, Islamic State said it carried out the bombings, releasing this video of suspects pledging allegiance to its leader. Only one face is unmasked: Mohammed Hashim Mohammed Zahran, in his early 30s, a self-styled radical preacher and the suspected ringleader who targeted the Shangri-La Hotel with another bomber. The other 7 men and 1 woman involved are from different parts of Sri Lanka. They're largely well-educated, well-travelled and with wealthy families. 7 hours' drive from Colombo is the majority Muslim town of Katankudi. This is where Zahran was born into a poor family, the eldest of 5. Friends describe him as an arrogant but compelling orator with hardline views on Islam. But leaders of the Muslim community are damning, saying he was expelled from religious college for breaking rules, excluded from a mosque for lying.
Sometimes Mr. Zahran says the extremism ideas.
Then set up his own group, National Tawhid Jamaat, or NTJ, in 2012, using it to criticise others, even those of his own faith who didn't agree with him. This is the National Tawhid Jamaat Mosque, where Zahran used to preach before his interpretation of Islam became too extreme for his colleagues. This letter, sent by the NTJ to Zahran back in December 2017, was to inform him that he's being expelled from the organisation. Inside the mosque is a former friend who's now leader of the NTJ. He claims Zahran only revealed he was an IS supporter through online posts after fleeing the town in 2017 for getting into a fight.
When he was talking on Facebook, he was saying this parliament is not good, the law is not good, different Muslim groups are not good, and all the leaders should come under one person.
And what did you think when you first heard the news that Zahran, your old friend, was actually the supposed ringleader of these bombings?
I feel angry and I feel ashamed because Zahran betrayed me. We'd spent so much time together and we started the NTJ together. He has betrayed us.
A couple of hours after speaking with us, Mohammed Tawfiq was arrested by police in a raid on the mosque. Officials have linked the NTJ and another group to the attacks. He denies the claim. Zahran, ranting over the internet, was on the radar of Indian intelligence for his radical views, but wasn't hunted down by Sri Lanka. Instead allowed to transform into a suicide bomber, resurfacing here at the Shangri-La Hotel to kill. A second man, Abdul Latif Jamil Mohammed, aged 36, studied engineering in the UK and did a postgraduate in Australia. He blew himself up at a guest house. Pictured looking at his phone, posing as a guest at the 5-star Taj Samudra Hotel, Abdul Latif's mission didn't go to plan. Something went wrong with the detonation charge on his backpack bomb, forcing him to leave, change clothes and retreat to the outskirts of Colombo. Checking into the low-grade Tropical Inn, then seen as he tried to visit a mosque said to be sympathetic with the NTJ. 4 hours later, Abdul Latif returned to the guest house.
The second time he came inside, he was laughing. He smiled at the receptionist.
So he seemed relaxed?
Yes.
He went to the room, and then the receptionist heard him lock the door. Around 8 minutes later came the blast.
Investigators believe he was trying to fix the bomb when it went off, killing himself and 2 other guests, reducing this 1-story building to rubble. Police were already monitoring the son of a tea trader from the central city of Kandy. Abdul Latif had 2 passports and travelled widely, including at least 2 times to the UK, possibly also trying to reach Syria. Next are 2 sons of a wealthy spice trader. 35-year-old Mohammed Ibrahim Inshaf Ahmed hit the Cinnamon Grand Hotel. and his brother Mohammed Ibrahim Ilham Mohammed, 32, struck the Shangri-La. A woman called Fatima was married to one of the brothers. She died in a bomb blast during a police raid on the family home in the Demetagoda suburb of Colombo. Mohammed Ibrahim is the head of the family, a respected businessman who owns Ashana Exports, now under arrest as US agents help the Sri Lankans examine his house. This neighbour has been a friend of the deeply religious family for decades. He last spoke to the father on Good Friday, saying he seemed normal.
Even right up to now, we can't imagine how they ever became like this. Suicide bombers, because they had a good wealth to live and they have a good education and all that background. We also can't understand what happened really.
The younger son, Ilham Mohammed, ran a coffee-making business on this street in the capital, where the father's company logo can be seen. Other properties are at a small industrial estate a short drive away. Police have just come here to lock up the family's businesses. This was the warehouse where the father kept a lot of his spices, and across the road is the copper factory that was run by one that were brothers. There's no sign of the Bangladeshi workers who were here just 2 days ago. When I met them, they told me their boss, the elder son, was one of the bombers.
Ends up is dead. Yesterday coming the army, I will see her mobile photo, dead bodies.
Oh, well, he was a suicide bomber?
Yes. Army tell me he's suicide.
Oh, so your boss was a suicide bomber? Yes. It must be so shocking.
I am very emotional.
The businesses meant the brothers often travelled overseas, at some point developing extremist views, also seemingly held by one brother's wife who lived at the family home. She's suspected of killing herself, her unborn child and her 2 children in a blast during a police raid after the main bombings. 3 officers died as well. At least one of the other bombers was also from Colombo. Alwadin Ahmed Moath, 22, is perhaps the youngest of the gang. He attacked St Anthony's Church. Sky News has obtained this exclusive picture of him. He's thought to be from another well-off family. His driving licence, addressed to this small plastics factory, which belonged to his father but is now run by an uncle. This man who works opposite recognised my picture of the bomber.
He's like quiet person, not the radical person.
So are you surprised?
Yeah, actually I'm surprised.
Little is yet known about what made such a young man inflict such horror on so many at this church. 2 more bombers have been named locally as Mohammed Mubarak Mohammed Assam, who hit the Kingsbury Hotel in Colombo, seen here looking jittery just before pulling the trigger. And Achi Mohamdu Hastu, who carried out the bloodiest of the bombings at St Sebastian's Church in the town of Negumbo. He's pictured patting a girl on the head as he strides towards his target. Last is 34-year-old Mohammed Nazar Mohammed Azar, from the same hometown as the group's ringleader. They were friends. He targeted a church in nearby Batticaloa. This footage tracks his final 7.5 hours. At the top of the screen, a bus carrying Mohammed Azar stops in eastern Sri Lanka at just after 2 a.m. on Easter Sunday. A rickshaw gives him a ride to Batticaloa, an hour's drive away. He leaves the vehicle and walks to the front gate of the mosque, clutching 2 bags. At 5:42 a.m, the gate of the Jami-us-Salam Mosque is opened. Mohammed Azar walks in, leaving his deadly luggage inside the building, before joining worshippers to pray, seen here on the right rolling up his tracksuit bottoms. Slipping away early, praying alone between 2 plastic chairs, then heading outside in a change of t-shirt. Speaking on the phone, walking slowly, seemingly scoping the area around his target. It's now only minutes until the first suicide bomb goes off in Colombo. He returns briefly to the mosque before his final departure, striding casually, stepping over a cordon, on his way to kill. Images of the attackers illustrate their coordination and training. Identical rucksacks, baseball caps to hide their faces, a change of clothes to conceal their tracks, pictured on their mobile phones, possibly receiving instructions from someone else. The deaths of these bombers are by no means an end to the threat. A complex investigation now underway, looking at the group and the wider network. A raid last week uncovered this bomb-making kit and an IS flag. A source told me Zahran may have trained scores more bombers. 2 of his brothers pictured here and their father blew themselves up after clashes with the security forces. More than 100 people have been arrested, including this man from Katankudi, found with the same kind of IS robe and scarf as the bombers. Others remain at large.
No one here believes that Zahran was the mastermind of the Easter Sunday bombings. They say he must have had outside help. But there is one unescapable fact. This small town will forever be linked with one of the world's worst terrorist attacks, and suspicions remain that others could do the same.
Black and white flags mourning the victims line the streets. As the focus here turns to reconciliation, Muslim preachers addressing a Catholic congregation, united in grief and condemnation, hopeful that time will heal.